Beep, 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 beep. How you doing, peeps? Welcome to the Court of the Digester. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, whatever it may be. Right? I don't care. If you could subscribe and like, that'd be a thing. Yeah, if you can become just right, or become a warrior teacher. The usual stuff, eh? Hope you're all well today. It's cold. It's early and it's cold. City o'clock. Somebody in the Dubris asked me to comment upon Baldur's Gate 3. It's brilliant. It's a work of art, right? Yeah, it's a work of art. I know you're not all gamers, most of you. It's a work of art. And I was asked what is my favourite character. My favourite character is Astarion, who is a vampire. Sort of slim and blonde. Helping me kill Githyanki warriors and nonsense merchants. Wandering the lands of Baldur's Gate 3. Mind flayers. Ooh, ugly creatures. Okay, so that's the answer to your question. Malcolm Clarke. Let's talk about Malcolm Clarke. Malcolm Clarke is an extraordinary individual with the most encyclopedic knowledge of the history of not just the gay movement, but all sorts of things. Being a documentarian, he has an eye. Okay, if you're not familiar with Malcolm Clarke, a link is in the Dubris to one of Malcolm's threads. And I say one because there are many that are so useful and should be bookmarked by all of us involved in scrapping against this anti-science nonsense. So he's done one from the 3rd of November, which I thought was so good. I'm going to read it out, and then you can go and read the rest of it. And Malcolm has a Substack, so you can also have a look at his Substack there if you look on his pinned tweets. The amount of information he brings to the party is extraordinary, and he's a very knowledgeable man. So without further ado, let's go. He asks us the question: when did it begin? Says Malcolm. In The Critic Mag, I trace the hatred for Alliance LGB, or the LGB Alliance, because at Alliance LGB is their Twitter. Malcolm's Twitter is at TwisterFilm, okay? At Alliance LGB, to a civil war in the gay, now rebranded, brackets, as LGBT plus movement that dates back to its intellectual origins. At its heart are the ideas of Herbert Marcuse. So who is he? Good question. And then Malcolm continues. This is great. By the time I worked at Communist Party HQ, brackets, really, exclamation mark, brackets, Malcolm! In the 1980s, he worked for Marxism Today. Marcuse was considered old hat. But in the 60s and 70s, it was his utopian theories, spiced with Marx and Freud, that helped him inspire the gay rights movement. That and his apocalyptic tone. You can hear that tone at 1 minute 38 in this clip, and then Malcolm's provided you with the clip so you can hear Marcuse speak. For Marcuse, liberal democracy wasn't an astonishing exercise in maximising human potential, but an exploitative, dehumanising charade that would destroy the world. Seems like a nice chap, this Marcuse bloke, doesn't he? Malcolm's not the only one to point this out. I've talked about it before. James Lindsay talks about it, that this guy Marcuse was really quite bonkers. Mad, right? Malcolm says that in a minute. He's the only man I know, apart from me, who uses bonkers. Bonkers. So what Marcuse was saying, that democracy was actually capable of destroying the world. It was a charade, it was a game. He had a solution, though. He had a solution, as Malcolm informs us, a bonkers one. Marcuse argued that Western democracies relied on sexual repression. Can you see it coming? Sexual repression to keep their citizens in check. If people cast off such repression, then the structures that upheld capitalism, like the family, would crumble and revolution ensue. At the centre of his theory was homosexuality. In Eros and Civilization, that was the name of the book by Marcuse, you can see a picture of it here Malcolm's provided us with, Marcuse argued homosexuals could be a new avant-garde. The new avant-garde, the new. This is, the idea that they're pushing the boundaries. They're at the forefront of the new, the avant-garde, the new, the exciting. They'd be like the mythical poet Orpheus, who brought homosexuality to the Greeks and also transformed their culture. Unrepressed homosexuality would usher in Utopia. And what would you like from your future, young man? I would like Utopia. Well, may I suggest unrepressed homosexuality as a route? What do I need to do for that? Well, all you need to find another man. Hang on, I'll get you a book. There's one in the school library. Unrepressed homosexuality would usher in Utopia. Malcolm then says, I said it was bonkers. For most gays, this sounded, as it did to everyone else, absurd. But to those on the far left, it chimed with their incendiary mood. In London, the GLF argued kids should be raised in communes, run by gays. Right. In the US, a GLF founder urged gays to arm themselves. With what? Glitter? Crazy, you bet. Gays on the far left loved Mark Hughes' claims homosexuals would be pathmakers to a socialist utopia. It's all sounded so familiar, isn't it? Hey, thanks, Malcolm. This is genius. You can still hear echoes today of that brittle arrogance in the LGBTQ plus lobbyist sense of entitlement, even if now the special avant-garde is no longer gay but trans or queer. And then you've then got a picture of Admiral Levine with that strange clothes-nicking bloke who he stalked airports and stole women's suitcases and looks like someone out of Star Trek. You know what I mean? Sam Brinton, right? Another Mark Hughes notion the far left embraced was the revolution led by homosexuals. We're coming! Well, led by homosexuals would unleash an era of polymorphous perversity. Polymorphous perversity sounds like a drag queen. In 1971, the founding text of Gay Studies by Dennis Altman stated this as a goal of the movement and credited Mark Hughes. For moderate, unrevolutionary lesbians and gays who just wanted legal reforms to allow them to live better lives, all this began to seem a tad, well, weird. Their fears crystallised when some on the far left embraced paedophilia as part of that polymorphous perversity. And it's then got an image of a gay socialist journal saying, Happy Families, Paedophilia Examined. The left, see, the far left. The magazine Gay Left allowed Pie's Tom O'Carroll to argue infants might desire penetrative sex and applaud the international Marxist group's conclusion that paedophile relationships are not only allowable, but they are to a large degree inevitable in a socialist society. It's Pie, innit? Pie, paedophile information exchange. And we wonder why Section 28 existed. This is why, you nutters. Moderate gay men and lesbians, many of whom were mothers, finally decided all this talk of perversity and utopia had gone far enough. They took back control of the movement, kicked out the paedophiles and silenced the revolution obsessives. Groups like Stonewall were born. However, as moderate gays got on with trying to change laws and win new rights, the utopians and child abuse apologists never disappeared. Like Peter Tatchell, they pouted at the back of the hall, or like Gail Rubin, a founder of queer theory, sought havens in academia. An academia, by the way, that seemed more than happy to keep promoting them. This civil war between moderates who just wanted gay rights and radicals who yearned for some sort of ill-defined revolution came back to haunt the gay movement after it achieved its agenda, including equal marriage and protections such as the Equality Act. But what to do now? As the moderates sauntered off into the sunset, they left groups like Stonewall desperate for a new cause to justify the fundraising. The radicals had the perfect answer. Trans rights didn't just offer the chance to run high-profile campaigns. Ka-ching! It did something else. For the radicals who took control of what now became the LGBT plus lobby, trans rights also offered the chance to sing that old song about effecting revolutionary change by subverting institutions and to overthrow colonialist capitalism by promoting polymorphous perversity. Forget that gender identity is a kind of solipsistic concern that could only flourish in a rampantly consumerist capitalism in which farmer profits by promoting non-existent medical conditions. Trans rights became a touchstone of both the woke left and idiot narcissists. Of course, the vast majority of those picketing LGB Alliance events or signing petitions against them will have never read Mario Miele, Gail Rubin, Dennis Altman, Reich, or Mark Hughes, any more than the crowds who stormed the Winter Palace had read Das Kapital. But we should. Right, bloody right, Mulk. Right. The intellectual origins of the far left version of gay rights explain much of the performative horror evoked by LGB Alliance, which disavows utopian notions and instead defends legal rights won through persuasion in a liberal democracy. Why is this seen as such a threat? For 60 years, some gays have seen their liberation movement not as a means to make liberal Western democracy even more successful than it already is, but as a means to destroy moral boundaries. The family and our institutions also. Their agenda is as confused as their ideas, but it doesn't mean that loathing of the radical LGBTQ plus movement for our country and its participative democracy is any less profound. LGB Alliance, with its defence of free speech and factual evidence appalls them because it undercuts their fantasies of revolutionary disruption. They hate LGB Alliance because it's proof that lesbians and gays can contribute to making our democracy even better, without rancour, bullying, or the promotion of creepy perversity. Mark Hughes would have hated that too. It's time the gay movement ditched his toxic influence. Thank you, Malcolm. It's a tremendous tweet. That's just a tweet. Go read the article. Go read the article as well, right? Malcolm's taking the time to write it. You know what I always say? He's taking time to write it. You can take time to read it, right? It's a brilliant article. Malcolm brings some real stuff to the fore there about the infiltration of the gay movement by the hideous far left and their bonkers ideas. This is going to get worse before it gets better, folks. So the more we understand about it, the better, right? And I think this is an important thing to understand, that story there that he gives us that goes right back to the 60s and comes directly to today and what's happening today. Warrior teachers will greatly appreciate that temporal narrative because it's the kind of thing we discuss in our sessions. Please do go and read. Thank you very much. It's great to see you. I'll see you soon, right? Keep going, folks. Keep going.